Hello, hello, hello.
Hello.
So I loved this podcast.
Mm-hmm.
I'm
Yes.
Harlem born and raised, so it was a really wonderful, humane, delightful way to get to know a complex, emotional, and often wrenching issue that for a part of the city that I feel like I should know better. So congratulations to everyone, for all people who are involved. So the framing for this conversation is developers are people too, which has come as news to so many of us as we've gone through this journey together.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And as I was preparing to talk with you, I realized that you're, in addition to having an extraordinary footprint in Brooklyn, you've lived there for many, many years, you're raising your kids there, you're a bit of a guru and sort of a real estate rock star, a little bit. You teach at NYU. I bought your book, How to Be a Millionaire in the Rental Market.
I hate the name, but
and
talk to my publisher. Yeah.
Published in 2006, which was 2 years before a major global
The world came
financial,
to an end,
all
yeah.
of it came to an end, unrelated to the book.
Mm-hmm.
We should mention that. But it occurs to me two things. One is that you have been through some things in terms of financing and real estate for a very long time.
Yeah.
And the second thing that occurred to me is that I don't have what it takes to be a developer at all. So maybe we could start there. What does it take to be a developer, and how has it changed?
You have to. I've been doing it for 17 years, and it's true that it's not easy going through 10 months of not paying your mortgage because everything stops in 2008. I think one of the things that being a developer demands is understanding of the broader picture, very stubborn and thick skin. And it comes from, and that's one of the reasons I was willing to speak and be part of this great program, is because we are humans. I live in Brooklyn. I'm raising a family in Brooklyn. But it's beyond that. I think the dialogue is by far more complex. And one of the things that you learn and you're shying away from as a developer is it's so easy to label things. It's so easy to say there's good people and bad people, and and everybody, you're sending people, you're destroying their homes. But so one of the things you learn as a developer is to speak to the intelligence conversation and not deal with stupid blogs or other stuff that is just not relevant.
But you had no bad outcomes from participating in the podcast, no?
So far.
So far, okay. Let's see if we can up our game tonight.
Yeah, exactly.
It is hard to find that intelligent conversation. Change is really hard, and I think from East New York in particular, which is where we picked you up in the first episode, there were some really wrenching stories of change. People who were whose not just their homes were taken away or sold, their entire networks, their survival networks were disrupted. Maybe you could talk a little bit about how you see your role in change which is coming, whether we like it or not,
Yes.
and coming more quickly than we might like. How you apply good judgment, how you put on the brakes, how you make tough decisions.
Well, first of all, we're not involved in the East New York project, unfortunately, even though that we're the most active developer in Brooklyn right now. We have 47 projects in Brooklyn.
47?
Yes. We're too small for East New York. East New York is a long-term way of thinking, and the players in it, and that's one of the things I said on that section, that we're too small. It's amazing, but the real big players are the one who can put their hands on it and wait till the city will finish the entire process and then benefit from it. We need to buy, develop, sell, or buy, develop, and rent. So that's the program. Now, listen, we're for profit organization. I think it's going to be ridiculous if I sit here and play as if I'm some saint. We're not. We're human beings. Our job is to make money. But there's a huge responsibility as someone who is managing a company with so many projects. One of the reasons I'm not a landlord, the landlord portion of our company is insignificant to the size of our company, is because I have a hard time evicting people. I don't want to. So I have rules. I don't buy properties with tenants in them, and it's not a good and bad thing. It's just a personal decision you're making through the process. I just can't. I remember first time I evicted someone, which was 15 years ago. I drove home and I spoke with my wife and I said I lost my innocence today. It's a very difficult thing, even if you're proud of what you're doing. And we are providing, there's nothing more satisfying for me to drive by a building that I finished a year ago and see all the lights on, and I say I provided housing for those people. So it's not, we're not here just to make money. We're not here to, and we're part of a change. We cause that change. We're fully responsible for the change. I think the dialogue and the conversation to have is how do you cause the change and be part of the change while you're being responsible, consciously responsible to the impact you have on the neighborhood. I mean, our office is in Bed-Stuy. We are very
You can still afford to have an office in Bed-Stuy?
Yeah, yes. As if tonight it's there, We'll see how the podcast will go. But we're very proud of it. There's nothing wrong with it. We're intertwined in the community. We work with non-for-profits, with people. We're not ashamed of what we're doing. I think it's great. One of the things that the entire series touched on is and it's not the only problem, but one of the biggest things that we're dealing with is a huge gap between supply and demand. Right. One of the reasons you see all those terrible stories you heard through it, where people take advantage, break their laws, put pressure, bullying people to get out of the space, is because there's not enough apartments. Right. So if you label developers as the evil force of all, then you have a bigger problem, because then no one's going to develop. And look what's happening right now, 421A, which is a whole different conversation, but was stopped for. And if you look at the numbers, there's thousands of units less in the pipeline. It takes us 2.5 to 3 years right. to bring properties to market. So if you just push against developers and make sure they don't make money and makes their life terrible, then they'll go somewhere else, and that's going to put more pressure and create a bigger atmosphere where all those crooks that the lady before I spoke about, I don't know the person, but I'm just saying in this example, there'll be more market pressure to cut corners, not work by the law, et cetera, et cetera. And so we do need to develop things. This is a fast-growing city. It's been extremely safe for now many years. And
one of the things the podcast did an extraordinarily good job doing was explaining zoning, which I had never been able to understand. I mean, and I'm a financial journalist, and it's like if I had tried to write about it, I'd just give up and give it to my editor and say, just fix this copy. You did an amazing job.
Yes.
And so it sort of strikes me that this is one of those areas where, housing, healthcare, education, capitalism falls short so quickly. Because there's human lives involved and there's all these unintended consequences. So that brings us to Mayor de Blasio. Mm-hmm. So this is, and I'm always amused when you say that you're not a big player. You've got, your company is publicly traded, has $500 million in assets, and you can't get a phone call. Then I don't know, what a big player. No. Right. So you're. So
I gotta be cautious with what I'm saying, so I don't get stopped by tomorrow's.
You should feel free.
Yes, sure, because we're on media. Sure.
To tell us
how it is. It's an intimate group of people. Why don't you?
We're all united.
To be cautious about what I'm saying, I think the overall atmosphere. It is very difficult to be a developer in New York right now. The city's our experience, my subjective experience, is that we're overwhelmed. The city is overwhelmed by the amount of construction and development. And instead of working with developers, and there's great developers out there, not everybody. There's also a lot of crooks. I mean, one of the biggest challenges of real estate is that the barrier of entry is very low. And it's not like other areas when you have SEC or other systems that's supposed to protect us. In real estate, there's nothing. Anyone with $100,000 can become, quote unquote, a real estate developer.
Journalism's the same.
yeah, exactly. So here we are.
We're just
perfect. So, but it's a major problem. So we have this huge development boom after the 3 years of no development whatsoever, and during the financial crisis, and now we're going through hell to get approved plans. So even if I want to build, here, I think a great example that I would love to build affordable. I can't afford building affordable. I mean, because my projects are not big enough. So there's all those minimal. So if I do one of the things that Brookland Capital, my company, is dealing with, we always say we're too big for the small guys and too small for the big guys. So when I do a 20-unit building, I have minimal units of affordability I must provide to be in that program. I can't do that. I can't do 10 units out of a 20 affordable. It's impossible. I got to make money. Those construction went up about 30% in the last year and a half, 2 years in New York because there's so much construction. So if someone came to me from the city and said, build affordable, I would love to build affordable. I think it's smart. I think it's needed. The reason why I've been living in New York for 22 years, the reason I love it here is because of all those, flavors and colors, and we all take the subways. You can sit next to a multimillionaire from Wall Street and a blue collar person who barely makes minimum wage. But that's the beauty of New York.
Yeah.
And one of the problems when the system doesn't give you the ability to create that a mix is that it stops. That then goes into the simple of like the rich people, the poor people.
Right.
That I think it's by far more complex.
Well, I know we've got a wrap, but was there anything that you talked about in the podcast that didn't make it on the air, or any story, or anything that you'd like to say now? We
No.
could just sit here together quietly, look out into the middle distance.
No, I think that I just want to acknowledge WNYC and anyone who involved, because
Yeah.
I think there's a
Yeah.
huge space in the city for dialogue. I mean, we would
Yep.
love to do more things that works for community, with community, for young people, for low income. And I think our job as a society, as a city, as WNYC, which is the radio of the city, is to create more and more opportunities to have a real dialogue.
Yeah.
So it doesn't fall into the because many times politicians just wants to label things. It makes it easy. It calls people to have a real fight over it versus actually dialogue and a solution.
Absolutely. Well done. Thank you so
Thank you.
much.